Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope you've had a great holiday season and enough time to get Star Wars out of your system, because it's time for some more Fallout. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add curves to your settlements, so you can build coliseums or round structures similar to this, or narrow pillars and poles and smokestacks like this one that accompanies this power plant. The method is time consuming, but required if you're looking to build more rounded and curved structures in your settlements. As usual though, this will be done on the PlayStation, so no mods or console commands will be required, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So let's get started. And we're back at Spectacle Island, and you can see we've got plenty of build room here. I've got a nice stage set up where I'm just going to be able to freely walk around on, and I've got one of these wood floors turned sideways so it's easier to see, and I'm just going to drop a wood floor right on top of it and try to line it up the best I can. It doesn't have to be exact, but the closer the better. No, I filled in some of these gaps, so they've just automatically snapped into position. And this has allowed me to freely position this any direction I want. Now, there's other methods just by looking way down or just trying to avoid looking at the object, but it really doesn't hurt to just snap whatever pieces you want into place, and then you can freely turn the piece and move it around without having it forcibly snap into place. Now when I'm placing these pieces down, I'm trying to keep these corners lined up the best I can. I want this corner to be right on top of the corner below it. And then I'm going to angle it so it's basically just two wood planks over. And I'm just lining that up so every time I place one down, it's going to be two planks. I went ahead and did a few more of these, and if I take a step back, you can see that it's starting to show an arc or a curve in these wood floors. The problem is they keep going up higher and higher each level. So if I just break them apart, I can actually click on these just while they're out in the open, and they'll drop straight down. They won't move to the side like they would if you was to click them and move them down. Just keeping everything out of its way and selecting the piece will cause it to drop straight down perfectly. Now you want to keep cleaning this up every time. Otherwise you're just going to end up with wood floors everywhere, and they're going to start confusing you. So try and keep this tidy. So we've made it about a quarter ways around this circle here. I know this is a tedious process. It takes about an hour to do, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on how perfect you want these to be lined up. But this is really the most difficult part of the whole process. Once you've completed this entire circle all the way around, the rest is all downhill. Once again, I've cleared out the area and I just click on the object and it drops straight down. One more time, just so I'm not confusing anybody here. See how I just move the object out, click on the piece so it drops down, and then I can just put the other piece right back where it was. Now by the time you get all the way around this circle, the odds of it lining up with the other side is not very likely. So instead, I'm just going to draw a line here using wires on these connectors, and you'll see why. Now I can use these wires kind of like a ruler to line these pieces up side to side to make sure they're not too much at an angle. This doorway is just a placeholder. I'm going to have to tear it back down when I go ahead and put the walls in, but for right now it's fine. So let's go ahead and start working on the walls for now. Of course, these stairwells are just being placed so I can drop foundations down on the ground level. Now the reason I'm skipping every other one is because I'm only using the lower part of the floor of the circle that we built up top. So it's important that you only put the bottom pieces in first. If you don't, the next piece will not fit. It's just not going to work. You always have to build from the bottom up when you're stacking foundations like this. Now that I have the lower section of foundations in place, I can now go ahead and start snapping in this second level right on top of it. So this piece has given me some trouble. It's being quite difficult, but I'm going to work it in there. It'll just take some time. There we go. Now that most of the more difficult foundation blocks around the ground level have been placed, the rest of these should slot in a little bit easier. Same thing here, just a new level. We're up one more block, and you can see that I'm still starting with the lower set of these foundations, and I'm skipping the ones that go higher. So I'll go all the way around this, just snapping these into place. I'm just doing the same thing right over top of it, filling in all of the empty gaps that I left going one direction. I'm just filling them in as I come back the other direction. Now that the ground level is pretty much done, we can see that it's really starting to take shape. It's starting to look like what we're trying to build. The problem is these walls won't go through the doorway, so I had to actually tear this doorway apart and rebuild it on top of the walls. So I'm up another level here, and this is going to take a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this along. Let's try 2 times and get this moving. After all that's done and we take a step back, this is what it looks like. It still looks kind of cool, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done to it. So let's get back in here. Now this level's a little different. I'm going to place these foundations, the lower level ones, on the inside, just like this. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around here, skipping every other one. So for these foundation blocks, you can see that I'm staggering them by placing these stairwells on a small wood floor, and it's causing them to push out about a half step. So I'm going to go around this entire ring and do this, just dropping these down, staggering them, and eventually it'll start to look like this. It'll kind of have a good texture to it at the top and go all the way around the ring. Now this is the window level, so I'm not going to fill in any gaps. I'm actually going to leave these so they're spaced out, one for every block. And right here, we're kind of just doing something similar on the next level above it. And the level above that. So this building is pretty much done. I'm just putting some floor panels on here, and we'll go ahead and take a step back just to get a good look at it. There's still some more work that can be done here, but first I want to show you how you can use this same method to curve much thinner objects like the smokestack at my Abernathy power plant. At first glance, it might be the lights in the window that catches your eyes, but it's really the smokestack that is the shining star to this power plant. I would have liked to have more of them, but these cables were getting in the way, and one was enough for me. It serves no main purpose in the game, but it looks pretty cool. You're probably able to tell by now that this is working out just like the Coliseum. It's just at a smaller scale, so the angles are actually much sharper. They're going to be at 45-degree angles, and we're just going to go all the way up in a big spiral this time. If you wanted to level them out, you could on some of these. Not all of these would be able to go back down. I'd love to show you guys more of the power plant, but that's going to have to be in another video. Right now, we need to get back to Spectacle Island and start talking about power. This is the circuit breaker on the south side of the island. You had to hit this before you could use the workshop, so you should know where it's at. The interesting thing about this circuit breaker is that it offers unlimited power. Yeah, that's right. I said unlimited power. Now, of course, if you've unconnected it, it's not going to work. If you've removed that cable, you can no longer place the cable back onto a connector. So I hope you have a save prior to when you have disconnected this cable. But if not, you could always just flood yourself with a bunch of large generators. Now that we've got infinite power running throughout the entire place, I've actually placed lights pretty much everywhere. Only these are my favorite lights just because they offer so much light. Uh, I've placed these on the back sides of these stores just to light the clerks up a little bit so you can see them a little, and it's not so dark in these cubby holes. Now there's a reason I didn't want to build too high inside this Coliseum style building. It was pretty much just this view. I mean, look at that. Normally I wouldn't like a giant hole in the roof, but on this building I think it looks good. So that about wraps it up. I hope you liked the video. If any of these tips were useful, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribers, you're the reason I'm still doing this, so thank you. Everybody, I'll see you next time.